The Life of a Saint podcast is 10 episodes deep, so I thought it would be a good idea to kind of go back and revisit some of my favorite clips from each one of those episodes. We started off on episode 1 with Derland Moore, the late Derland Moore, and he described for us not only the honor of being on the All-50th team for the Saints, but also the funny story that went along with it.
But the 50th team with New Orleans, yeah, that was super special. Yeah, hey, John, I'm going to tell you that my knees, I'm fixing to get my knees chopped on finally in September, getting some new wheels put in. But my knees were bad last year, okay? And they go, Derland, listen, we'll take you out there in a golf cart. And I said, you'll play hell too. So I said, all you got to do is get me to where I got to go to the ramp. And I said, I'm going to walk on that field. And I did, but I'm going to tell you, John, it was close. I got to where, when we came off the field, I didn't know if I was going to be able to get off it soon enough for them to start the game.
I guess when you're wired a certain way, there's only one option. So
there wasn't no option. The option was I was going to walk out there and I was going to walk off.
Right.
And that was it. And then I fell in that golf cart as soon as I got out of everybody's view.
Episode 2, we got to speak to Willie Roaf, and he speaks about how influential his dad was throughout the entirety of his career.
My dad was at every game.
Wow.
And my dad missed one game, home game, not on the road. My dad was on the school board. My dad was at all my high school games. We'd sit right by the bench. If we were messing up or doing stuff, he'd come out to the bench, start talking to us, chewing us out, right there during the game. When I was in high school. When I was in Louisiana Tech, my dad, 2 hours, my dad came to every game, every home game. When I got to New Orleans Saints, it's about an 8-hour drive. My dad only missed one game because my brother was playing at University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. My brother was playing a game. That's the only reason my dad missed one football game. When I got traded to Kansas City, it's about 8 hours going up through Fayetteville, through 71, up through Webb City, Missouri. He never missed a game.
Wow.
So my dad only missed one home game the whole time I played. And he would get in the car and drive home and go to work on Monday and be at that dentist's office.
Wow.
He was very dedicated to it.
Episode 3, we got to speak to my friend Quinn early, who talked about not only the one player that he opposed that he really looked forward to seeing on the field the most, but also a funny story of how he describes said player.
Barry Sanders.
Okay.
Usually what would happen during the game is once the offense came off the field, we would all gather around and go over our strategies for, the next series or what we're going to do throughout the rest of the game. But when we were playing the Lions, I'd listen to what we had to say, but then I would hurry up and get over to the sidelines so that I could watch him run with the football, and he would just make people look ridiculous. It was almost like somebody released a squirrel out onto the field and told everybody to go catch it.
Episode 4, we spoke to Sammy Knight, and he talked to us about the Willie Shaw finger point.
It was unreal because really at that time, I was playing strong safety. I was backing up Anthony Newman at that time. And I'll never forget, this is literally right before the game. Like, I'm talking about hour after warm-ups. Willie Shaw came to me and said, he always had like this finger, this long finger, this index finger, and he would point like you were in trouble, come here. He would just tell you from afar, come here. And he came and talked to me, and he was like, hey, you're starting at free safety today. And I was like, I'm starting at free safety? He's like, yeah, you're starting at free safety today. He's like, I know you haven't played it, but I know you can do it. I know you know it. So go out there and just play great. And luckily, I had a decent game, but Anthony Newman helped me out a lot. Eric and those guys, and Alex, they all were supportive. And so from there on, I ended up playing free safety.
For the 5th episode of Life of a Saint podcast, we spoke to Jim Everett, and he described how he was arriving to New Orleans as the Dome Patrol was leaving.
When I went to New Orleans, I was happy as lark. We were playing for a coach like Jim Mora, a quality human being. I think what was kind of ironic is when I showed up to New Orleans, that was the time Ricky Jackson and Pat Swilling retired. And Sam Mills, we still got one more year out of him, which was fantastic to play with. But all those defenses over all those years, I thought I was going to have a chance to play with. then all of a sudden they start leaving, and it was kind of an interesting time. And we were 500 teams there at New Orleans, but I'll tell you this: the people of New Orleans, and that's where I always get to. When you come from one franchise and you go to another, the people of New Orleans were a blessing. It was the best experience of my life. They take, that was after an event with a radio announcer and stuff that went down, and I'm looking for a resurrection of my career, and the people were so positive, and it's just a blessing. And to this day, I think being in New Orleans has definitely helped even my Catholicism. So it really is a special place for me.
We're halfway through our list. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you subscribe. In any event, we just spoke about the Dome Patrol a bit. We're going to talk a little bit more, talking to Pat Swilling about the Dome Patrol.
Honest with you, you would never, ever in the National Football League put 4 guys of that stature on the team. Even today, you couldn't afford us today. Mm-hmm. You just couldn't. You couldn't. If we played today, you couldn't afford us. It would never happen. Sam and Vaughn and hell, Ricky was already Ricky Jackson. We just kind of added to what Ricky Jackson already built, and just to play with those 4 guys, man.
Mike Karney was our guest for episode 7, and he spoke about the 2005 season, not only what it was like seeing the devastation left in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, but also what it was like for the players going through that season.
It was tough, man. I mean, it wasn't as tough as the rest of the city had. I mean, we were able to be flown out of there before our last preseason game in Oakland. I'm not going to sit here and say we had the same challenges as the rest of the city did and all the people there, because we didn't. We were able to get out of there and be safe. But there was guys at the time. I wasn't married, I had no kids, but the majority of our team was married, had kids, and so it was a trying time. It was a lot of unknown, a lot of. You're worried about the people, you're worried about the fans, you're worried about their safety, if everyone can get out of there, and so you had a lot of emotions going through your mind. For me, that was my second year in the league, so it was really weird. I think I remember that year more than I remember any other year I played in the NFL, and I could tell you like the last landing in Oakland on that Tuesday, we were going to play on a Thursday night game. And then turning on the TV and seeing the whole city underwater. You just go, wow, this is for real. We're being told that, hey, just pack for a couple of days, we'll be back. And
wow.
And a lot of guys did that. We packed a few things, and then to find out the devastation was so bad that we wouldn't be returning at all that year, and that we would be going to San Antonio and living in San Antonio, and it was just absolute chaos. We didn't know at one point, they didn't know if we were going to stay in San Antonio, where we were going to go. And then once they made a decision, then we went, they told us, hey, we're staying here. We got to go find a place to live. Then you had to scramble and find a place to live. And we would go to try to find corporate living, where it was like you furnished living. So you just, because you couldn't go out and buy furniture. You didn't have time to do that stuff. We had a season about to play a season here. We're just a couple weeks for the first regular season game against the Panthers. So we didn't have our cars. It was just it was nuts. But we did the best we could do that year. It was great to win that first game in Carolina. It felt like we were able to kind of bring some type of civility, and some peace to the people. That we were able to win that game, even though there was a lot of devastation things going on. But that year was just, we were traveling every game. We played 4 games in Baton Rouge. We played 3 in the Alamo Dome. We played 1 in New York as a so-called home game against the Giants. It was just it was crazy. We had to move in and out of the Alamo Dome a couple times because there was the NCAA volleyball and basketball tournaments. And there was a home show in there, a car home show. It was just I don't even know how we even won 3 games. When we finished that year 3-13, I still go, how did we win 3 games? It was just it was absolute chaos. We had to really adjust every week, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And then we're flying we're basically for a home game. We're flying to Baton Rouge, which was great to play there because there's a lot of fans who were displaced in Baton Rouge to come watch us play at LSU Tiger Stadium. But it was hard. It was hard for everybody. That was a very trying year, and a year, like I said before, that I'll never forget, because I remember everything about that year. And that year really, I think, was the what really carried us into the next year,
Right.
after the staff was let go and Sean came in. That year really, that will always kind of stick in my mind forever. And it was a tough year, and a part of yourself, felt horrible for the people, and a part of you was like, hey, well, I got to go out and perform for the people, and do our best. And it was a kind of a challenge, and then we were backs up against the wall every week because we just weren't able to have that home field advantage at times, and guys were tired. Man, I remember guys, every time the plane would taxi down the runway, the whole plane was asleep. I mean, guys were, because that was probably the most exhausting, most emotional year I've ever had in any sports, let alone the National Football League.
Episode 8 of the Life of a Saint podcast featured Morten Andersen, and he spoke some pretty motivational stuff about that 20-month gap he had between one team and another, and how he pushed through despite people, some naysayers in his life telling him maybe it's time to hang it up.
Defining moments in your life, John, the defining moments, and how do you handle them? And when you're young, that's God's cruel joke on us. When we're young and we get them, we don't have the perspective and wisdom to know what the hell to do with them. We just blaze right through them, and we may even miss them.
Right.
We may be standing at the train station, and the train goes right by us, and we don't get on. So that's the cruel joke of being young and immature and impulsive. So with age comes levity and wisdom, and I think the 20 months for me, and I didn't know at the time it was going to be 20 months. I thought it was going to be a few months and I would have a job, but the phone didn't ring for 20 months, So that's when, that's when your character and your will is tested, really, because, I'm not a spring chicken. I'm 45 years old. That's ancient. That's basically guys have been retired for a while in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But, I'm 77 points away from the NFL scoring record. And there were incentives, there were carrots out there. There were things to go get, There were reasons why I should continue. The most important is finishing on my terms, Most guys don't get to do it on their terms. Mm-hmm. So those were kind of the motivator for me was, again, to prove to everyone I wasn't finished. I wasn't too old to play at the highest level. And that and the legacy had to be that I wanted to be the leading scorer in the history of the game. That was important to me. Mm-hmm. That was a motivator. And so for those 20 months in that public park, although it was humiliating at times to have to defer that field to little leaguers and their parents looking at me crazy when I was wearing my uniform, Pro Bowl jersey and Falcons helmet and New York Football Giants pants, and because I played, Kenny Stabler shoulder pads, because I played in full gear. That's how I practiced. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they look and go, what's this nutbag doing? What is this crazy guy doing? Well, I was working towards something that was lifelong. To finish on my terms, and also to become like the leading scorer in the history of the game. Kind of a big deal to me, Right. So just kept going, and I know people thought I was absolutely bonkers, and my wife stuck with me, my kids stuck with me, family stuck with me, but there were friends that absolutely thought I was a lunatic, and that it was over, imagine almost 2 years and the phone doesn't ring, and you go through a full season, you're ready, and the phone doesn't ring, and nothing happens. And then you actually go into the second season, and now you haven't played since 2004, and you're now in 2006, and then 3 games in, the phone finally does ring, and you're ready. But what if you had not been grinding 20 months in a public park? Then that train leaves the station, and you're on the platform, right? Yeah. So that's the lesson. That's the takeaway for me, anyway, is that whatever is worth chasing, you chase it 100% until it's absolutely exhausted and empty.
Jake Kupp was on episode 9, and he spoke about maybe the oddest contract situation I've ever heard of in NFL football.
67 and 68 contract with New Orleans, and what they did is they just traded my 1967 contract, which you can't do in the league anymore.
Right.
But it was a weird deal, and so I went to Atlanta, and I got there on a Sunday, so I missed. I think it was the 8th game of the season, and then I started for them the next week. And it was kind of hard because their numbering system was opposite of what New Orleans was. And so in my mind, I'd have to take the play that was called in the huddle and revert it to the numbering system in New Orleans. But it was really a positive experience for me for two reasons. One is I had a lot of success. I think in the remaining games that I had the highest score of any of the offensive linemen. So I had a lot of success. And the second thing was that I met Brad Eklund, our offensive coach at Atlanta, and he just, I can't tell you, John, he just turned my life around because he treated me with respect, he valued me, and it was just, I just can't tell you what he means to me. He's not alive today, but I just can't tell you what Brad meant to me.
Lastly, episode 10, Kyle Turley spoke about the literal fork in the road that he had choosing between offensive line and defensive line.
The day that they brought in the new coach, Ted Tollner, he had his first team meeting, and we were all sitting there. He had every coach introduce themselves, and I just got locked in on Ed White, man. It was unreal. It was like the D-line coach, that had a part to do with it. D-line coach was just, good guy, but didn't appeal to me, that I want to really play for this guy. But I didn't care, it never mattered to me who I played for. I played football, and I did it well. They were all like me. But Ed White got his turn up there, and just a magnet, man. I don't know what it was. And I remember, leaving that room and going out. Coach Tollner said, go, leave this meeting, go wherever you want. And we don't care. We'll sort it out here in spring ball. And I remember just standing outside. I was the last person to go into a room because I was just standing in the middle of the quad area there at the meeting rooms of the old Aztec facilities. And it was just dark at night, and I was just looking around. I was like, everybody's gone in a room. I don't know where to go. Like, do I go here? Do I go there? It's like literally, one of those moments in life where you have a door in front of you, choose to go through it. And my ultimate goal was to make it to the NFL. And I just felt, personally, and then, I got coached by some great guys. I mean, my high school coaches were phenomenal. I couldn't ask for any better coaches, like mentors. I'm still friends, families to this day, and Ed White, just spoke that to me. I don't know what it was, but I just decided, well, I want to make it to the NFL, and I want to be the best football player I could be. And I just started playing, so let me go over here. Because Ed White and those guys came to me, too. They're like, wow, Kyle, we'd love to have you on the O-line, and I was just like, well, and I walked in the line room. I was late to the meeting, my first meeting.
There you have it. A quick little synopsis of the first 10 episodes of the Life of a Saint podcast. I'm going to link all 10 episodes in the show notes below. Let me know which one of the episodes was your favorite or which one of these clips was your favorite. Comment below. Don't forget to like it. Hoot at everybody. We'll see you on the next one.